This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about the official release date and price for the Steam controller, our thoughts on Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, Xbox exclusives potentially returning, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 134. I am your host, the man who is solely to blame for the PS5 price increases, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who, upon realizing the Steam controller is actually an Elite controller rather than a standard, is still only buying one, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
This week honestly has just been, I guess it's been a very average week, probably more so than last week. Can't really think of too much that has happened, although I had ordered something off of eBay and it was supposed to arrive today, but even though the seller had given the tracking information, USPS never picked it up, and I was going to contact him today about it, but then he sent me a message yesterday saying, hey, I've been busy, sorry about that. So he said I was going to try staying out today, which I did get an confirmation probably about a couple hours ago that it had actually been picked up by USPS, so I'll wait for that to come in. I mean, it's not something that I needed right away, but it's something that I would have liked to have sooner than later. I was going to start recording my one video on Saturday, but then I was partially waiting for something else so that way I wouldn't be interrupted, but unfortunately that thing never happened, so I didn't end up actually recording. Although I think now what I want to do is possibly try to have something else set up so that way it's easier to do some testing. So I guess I'm sort of glad that I didn't get started on that at least, but I'll see how that goes later on. But I think because of that, I will probably go ahead and start doing the one series that I was planning on doing, since that'll be at least easier to start recording and whatnot. But yeah, that's really everything that's happened.
All right. Well, on my end, let's see here. Saturday, we finally got around to going through all of the stuff we have set aside for the garage sale and got everything priced and more or less ready to go. So we have that coming up this Saturday finally, and hopefully we can offload everything that we want to get rid of. Whatever we don't manage to sell, we're basically just planning to donate. And then hopefully after we get back from Wyoming, we'll be able to, I'll be able to get back to the project of getting the garage set up to become a kid space. So, because it's more than anything just getting all the extra stuff out of there. So yeah, that's the big thing with that. Next Friday, the 8th, we're going to be heading to Wyoming and spending a couple weeks there. So just getting stuff ready ahead of time. We have it worked out to have someone from our church house and dog sit for us. So we got all that sorted out, which will be good. And we're going to go over stuff with them this week. Trying to think if there's really anything else. Not a whole lot. I mean, it's been kind of just a relatively uneventful week, rather than news and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't really have anything else. All right. So what have you been playing this week?
So I've been getting into a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I continue playing some more of Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, and I'm not entirely certain if I will be doing too much with this right now. I know it just feels different enough where I'm not too enthralled with it. I mean, it's mechanically sound. It just feels different enough from your typical Castlevania game that or especially I guess it just feels different enough from the previous entries that I've been playing where I'm like, I might need to like come back and forth into this game just because I need to be in the right headspace to play it. So, I mean, I've made some progress. I've gotten to a few new levels here and there, and it's definitely, I guess, nice on that end. Even though the levels aren't really, I mean, a few levels are annoying because of the enemies, but I guess I'm glad that they're not too long where it's like, all right, you can just go through the level and go into the next area and make progress, and then just do stuff from that point. But I feel like you kind of need to grind to a degree, and I'm just like, I don't feel like I'm not in the mood to grind right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been doing a bit of grinding for several different games where I'm like, I really don't feel like grinding, so I just want to put this sort of on hold for the moment. Although I might dive back in here and there just to make a little bit of progress as I feel like it. That's what I've been doing with that. Then I started this one game called Assault Suit Lanos 2 Saturn Tribute, and this is a game that seemed interesting to me. I saw it on... Actually, I think I first heard about this because there was some sort of post I'd seen about it for the Switch 2 or for the Switch version being on sale. I was like, I wonder if this is available on PC. And then I saw it on Steam. I was like, all right, cool. It looks nice. It's looks like a mech shoot 'em up, maybe a run and gun. I said, all right, let me give this a shot. This game is it's far from what I expected. I mean, it looks simple. Like, it looks like a game you'd play like maybe Contra, Metal Slug, something like that. But the controls are just so awkward. It's like you have multiple weapons and they're each designated to a single button. So you have like a shotgun is one button. Your machine gun's another button. Rockets are another button. And you have an auto aim and a manual aim, but it feels so janky that it's hard to control. And it's also really just hard to explain it too, because I looked at the when you first boot up the game, it shows you the controls, and I was looking at it for at least 2 minutes trying to wrap my mind around it, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, that doesn't seem too bad. It's a 2D game. How hard can it be? Apparently it's rocket science. I don't know. It's just really weird because sometimes the camera zooms in, sometimes it pulls out, and I can't figure out how to make it not zoom in and zoom out. So I just don't get it. So like I can't even make it past the first level just because the first boss just mows me down. Because he either gets too far off the screen where I'm within his view, so that way he can just fire at me. And then even the first time I played it, you can actually run out of ammo, and I didn't even realize that. I'm thinking to myself, how am I already out of ammo? It's probably been only about 4 minutes and I'm out. And it does seem like there's a way to actually reload, to like pick up ammo. So it looks like you have to be very meticulous with how you use your weapons, but I'm really not certain if I'm going to continue playing this unless I can find something that shows, hey, here's how you play the game and actually control it properly, because it just seems weird. I mean, Mech Warrior on the Super Nintendo, that was a first-person mech game, and it had its own depth to it. Like, each limb had its own armor, and you had to repair it, and you know, it was sort of like playing Armored Core to a degree, but just on a 16-bit console. But that still felt more intuitive than this game, which is really weird to me. So I don't know. I might come back to this, I might not, but I'm really just not feeling it right now. But then the next thing I played was Dino Blade Demo, and it is interesting. It's interesting to say the least, and I didn't know. Well, I remembered what you said about the camera being very sensitive, and lo and behold, you were definitely right. I think it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, just because you gave me that heads up, so I sort of knew to be aware of that going into the game. But I don't think it was necessarily as bad as I thought it would be.
Mhm.
It's still sensitive, but I just don't think it's that bad.
Right.
Control wise, pretty good, I'd say. Some stuff took a bit of figuring out, getting used to.
Mhm.
And the performance was not too shabby, I'd say. I mean, first I was wondering, I was like, all right, this is only running about 80 to 90 frames per second, but then I realized, oh, I was so used to playing on my 1080p monitor, I forgot that this was set to 1440p. So, considering the fact that it's just a 9060 XT, and I'm using like a 5000 series release of AMD 5600X, I think this performance is pretty satisfactory enough. I might decide, and also I was running it natively as well without any upscaling, so I think that's pretty reasonable for what it is. I think the biggest disappointment for me with this game is the lack of feedback in the game. It doesn't feel like there's really any impact to any of my attacks.
Yeah.
Now, when I do a parry, it feels like I'm actually doing something. Like I feel like I'm getting some sort of response from the game, but with the basic attacks, it really just doesn't feel like I'm doing anything at all. I don't know. It's I'm not certain how to explain it, but I just don't feel like I'm getting the response that I want from it, and because of that, it just doesn't really feel satisfying to play the game. So I'll see. I might have to come back later on. I didn't finish the demo. I got through the first boss, played a little bit more, and went a little bit further into the game, but I didn't do too much beyond that, just because, like I said, I wasn't really feeling it. But I might come back and decide to complete the demo, because you said there were 3 bosses in total?
Yeah.
Okay, so I might come back and finish it, but I'll see. It'll just depend. But then I played some more Marvel Cosmic Invasion, and my friend and I, we finally got through the end of the game.
Nice.
The final level, well, the final levels, it seems like there was a massive, not a massive, but just a large difficulty spike that wasn't there previously, just because when we first booted up the game, got into the first level, where we were continuing off, we died probably within the first 4 screens, and we're like, all right, hold up now. We were doing very well this entire time. We didn't have any deaths, and all of a sudden now we're starting to die. What's up with that? So it definitely the difficulty ramps up a bit, I'd say, not too much, but it definitely ramps up from the previous levels. And the final level definitely was a bit more of a challenge, especially with the final boss. And I think it's more so just the fact that his shield goes up much sooner than with any of the other bosses, so he's able to like regain it, which makes the fight drag on a bit longer. But we were able to, of course, get through that. So we completed the game. I'm still grinding on for some of the stuff, like trying to get some of the achievements. I am going to try to see if we can, if my buddy and I can try to maybe arrange to have one more co-op session at least, just because there's an achievement where you need 4 players to do their special attacks simultaneously. And the easiest way to do that is to just have, if you don't have 4 players, is to just have 4 controllers,
Right.
and then just, press all the buttons at the same time. And it's easier if you have 2 people with 2 controllers in their hands, so that way instead of having like one person with 4 controllers trying to manage that. So I'm gonna see if we can maybe do that. But I know right now his PC is giving us some issues, and last week he was playing on his Steam Deck, so I'll see if maybe he could either like use his Steam Deck and also plug in a controller to his dock or something else to see if we can get that set up. Otherwise, I'll just wait and see what happens when his PC is working again. But yeah, that's been pretty good. And then what I've been mainly playing though has been Vampire Crawlers. Now, I played the demo for this earlier this year, and I didn't think too much of it. I thought it was interesting, but that was really about it. The game is a lot more fun than I had now than I had then, and
Nice.
I don't know if it's partially because I've gotten an understanding of the controls, especially of the gameplay mechanics, because, you know, at the time I was pretty much just mashing buttons trying to see what works, until I realized, hey, you actually have mana to cast your cards, and, you know, the cards do have mana requirements, and not only that, but you can also chain them. And I didn't even understand how the chaining works, and essentially it's based on a numerical system where sequential numerical system where, you know, you start with a lower number and you progressively get to a higher number, and if you break that sequence, then it sort of resets until you get another combo going. And essentially stringing the combos along is what allows you to deal more damage, and also just overall improve the impotency of your cards. So for example, if you're stringing along a combo and a card normally would say deal 46 damage, it'll double that if you have a 2x combo. If you have a 3x combo, it deals more 3 times the damage, and etc, etc. And if say something like if you had a card that gives you defense, if it gave you 2, it'll give you 4, and so on and so forth. So understanding that definitely made the game so much more enjoyable, and I think I've pretty much gone through most of the game. I thought I was at the end at one point until I saw there's actually another area, so I'm not certain how much more of the game I have left, but as of right now, at least, at least going off the achievements, I've gotten about 88% of the game complete.
Nice.
So that's pretty good. Now, the one thing I do wonder, though, is if it's going to be like the original Vampire Survivors, where more and more content is just added in, which I have a feeling it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, granted, unlike Vampire Survivors, this is in a game that was in early access for like a year before it was fully released, so it's not like I have to wait, hey, I know there's going to be more content, and then more content, and then more content, but there might be something added in later down the road. But all in all, I'd say this is much better than I expected. And I mean, I'm not really a big card battler type of person, or like a dungeon crawler type of person, but I think this was easy enough to understand, and probably easy enough to even master, to the point where it's like, all right, yeah, cool, I can just go in, string in some combos, and just like plow through dungeons, even if they're on the higher difficulties. And then of course just like unlocking more characters, learning their abilities and skills, and then just trying to also get new power-ups, get new items, and even improve those as well, has been fun. And so if you're someone who has enjoyed Vampire Survivors, you would definitely, I think you could enjoy it. And I think even if you haven't played Vampire Survivors, if you like card battling games, this I would say is definitely fun. And I don't think it's a requirement to play Vampire Survivors. I think it can make things easier because you'll know, hey, I know that you can evolve weapons, and so you'll know, hey, I know that I need like garlic and a heart to evolve that, or I need a cross and I forgot. I think a 4-leaf clover, and that evolves that. So if you've played Vampire Survivors, it helps so you know like what skills and what abilities you can use and sort of like what works for you. Although granted, the abilities don't exactly work one to one. Some work similar to the other ones, but it just makes it easier to play the game. But it's not really a requirement. But yeah, all in all, this has been very fun, and I've definitely enjoyed it so far. But yeah, that is everything that I've played this past week.
Very nice. Yeah, Vampire Crawlers looks like it could be pretty fun. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily would. It would be something that I would pick up, but I could see how it could be like enjoyable. And if this was ever like a free game at some point, I'd probably grab it and give it a go. But yeah, going back to a Marvel Cosmic Invasion, you talking about having to do the 4 players all doing their specials at once just made me think back to GameCube days on Smash Brothers Melee. To get Mewtwo, you had to do like I think 20 hours of versus battles, and so the easiest trick to do is plug in 4 controllers and just go to a match and then just leave it on for 5 hours. And,
Yeah.
And of course, Mewtwo is great in Melee. So
Yep. Yeah, that's how I ended up doing it, because I was like, I'm not playing that many matches just to do it, so I'm just leaving the GameCube on all night.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, going back to Dino Blade, like when you mentioned the fact that attacks don't really have impact, I definitely see exactly what you mean. Like, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, you're definitely right about that. That they don't really feel like they have a whole lot of impact to them, and that definitely makes a difference from that standpoint. I mean, I don't feel like it's the worst I've experienced like that, but definitely, I think you're definitely correct. So. All right. Well, going to what I've been playing. So first of all, I want to mention Wednesday. I mean, all I brought with me was my laptop. When I went into the office, I just figured I'd play something on there, and I was kind of wanting to play Pragmata, but I didn't have Pragmata installed on the laptop, and I didn't bring my Steam Deck because I figured, there's no point in bringing 2 devices. I could just play something on a laptop. And even though I was kind of itching to play Pragmata, I just didn't have a way to do it. So I decided to boot up Expedition 33 and played a little bit more of that, and just made a little bit of progress in the whatever the cliffs are, the last area of Act 1. So I'm not done with it yet. I didn't get super far. I mean, I just played for like an hour, maybe a little less. But yeah, good stuff. Not really much else to say about it from that standpoint. But of course, I played a bunch of Pragmata this week, and let's see here. Right now, I think there's maybe a total of like 6 or 7 areas plus whatever the final boss is, and I've gotten through the first 3, and I'm like, I think right near the end of the 4th area. So yeah, I've been playing that mostly on my desktop. I've done some on my Steam Deck as well. At one point, I actually was going to stream from my desktop to my Steam Deck, and I was just trying to do one of the training sessions. But there was like some weird lag there that was messing me up, and so I ended up just switching over to playing natively instead on the Steam Deck, and that worked a lot better for at least those training things. I haven't been trying to stream the game from my desktop just because of the fact that it will mostly run well enough on the Steam Deck, but it's not perfect. So yeah, the biggest issue I've had with running it on the Steam Deck, and there's no Steam Deck footage here, this is all just desktop footage, but the biggest issue I had with running it on the Steam Deck was like there's the second area you go to is a lot more big and open, and so if you it's more demanding as a result. And so then when I went in there, it's particularly when I was trying to fight the final, or the boss of that area, it just did not run well there. It was doing pretty poorly, probably getting down into the 20s. So I wasn't able to beat that boss, and so then I ended up just doing it again when I got home and didn't really have any problems. Half of my problem in that case was more just that I had missed some of the mechanics, just how to avoid some of the attacks. And once I like realized right near the end of the fight, but by that point I was out of healing items and low on ammo and stuff, and so I wasn't having a whole lot of success from that standpoint. But yeah, so I've been playing, like I said, mostly on my desktop, some on my Steam Deck. Steam Deck has been more just doing some of the training stuff and some of the less big stuff. Like I haven't even bothered doing boss fights on there, but I have been doing some other stuff on there. And I ended up installing it to my laptop today as well, because I figured tomorrow during my lunch break I will probably be playing some more, and runs pretty well on my laptop. I mean, I'm using DLSS just because it's like, I know my laptop isn't super strong, and I haven't tried to see how it would run natively. I'm sure I could probably get 60 FPS with a little bit of adjustment settings, but I kind of want a little more frame rate than that, and DLSS does work really well for upscaling, so I figured, I'll probably just stick with DLSS, and I'm doing like performance, but DLSS does a good job not making it super blurry when you do that, so that really helps. But yeah, so I've been enjoying the game a lot. There's a couple of the training challenges that have been kind of a hassle to get through, particularly getting all of the different optional objectives completed. I did find out that it's not required to do all the optional objectives. There's like no achievements tied to it. And really the only benefit is you get some additional resources for upgrading and that sort of thing, which is like, okay, that's nice. But I haven't entirely decided whether or not I'm actually going to take the time to do that with a couple of them. Because they're just like, there was one in particular that it was just the amount of, actually there's been two of them where it's, to complete all the objectives, you have to complete them in a certain amount of time, and it's killing a bunch of enemies. But the problem is that it's just really hard to get enough damage dealt, and you're limited to a specific set of items and mods and that sort of thing. You can't, do it yourself, because if you could select everything yourself, it would be a piece of cake to get through all that. I could just, use some of the current builds, or, go back to it when I'm later in the game and that sort of thing. But those options don't really exist. So yeah, I mean, I've just been, like I said, I've been having a good time with the game, and the fact that it runs really well on my desktop and my laptop, I'm pretty happy with it. I guess I didn't say exactly how it runs, but it's like, I think I'm getting 90 to 120 with DLSS performance. So it's more, I guess it's probably more in like the 90 to 100 range is pretty average, and then sometimes it'll get up in like 120. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And then of course, my desktop, obviously I'm running it native and getting 150 to 200 frames per second. So a pretty significant difference there. Plus it definitely looks a heck of a lot better, but yeah. But then I ended up installing and trying out a game that I hadn't planned on, but it was just more, I came across it listed somewhere. And that is, there is a PC decompilation which has existed for a while, but it's not quite the same as like the other ones, because it's like, it gets more Java based. And that's of Legend of Dragoon. The original PS1 game. And so this one is interesting mostly because, for one, from a visual standpoint, it's like, it doesn't have a whole lot of improvements. It looks very similar to how it does on PS1. It can't do higher resolution, which is nice. And there's a couple of like quality of life modifications that you can add it, or that are like built into the game that are optional, like being able to see a turn order up in the top left of the screen, so you can see, who's up next and that sort of thing, and actually having health bars for the enemies. Things like that are nice. But unfortunately, the game, the max it gets up to is 60 frames per second, which is fine. Perfectly good. except the fact that that's only outside of battle. In battle, it's the same 20 frames per second that it was on the original game. And so, because of the fact that I played the original on Vita a decent amount, the PS1 Classics version, I more or less knew the timing for the timed attacks, because there's this thing called additions where basically it's just timed button presses to get additional hits on an attack in order to get kind of like a special off with every attack. And there's different variations of these additions, and I don't know if you've ever played Legend of Dragoon. If you have, you'll know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, then it's basically just like timed button presses to get additional hits. And I know that they are actually working on modifying it to where you have the option to put it at 60 frames for the battles, which I'm definitely going to once it's available. But because of the fact that I have, played enough of the game before to where the timing wasn't throwing me off, it being at that lower frame rate, it hasn't really been detrimental. But at the same time, it would still be nice because it's a little jarring going from 60 down to 20 when you get into battles. And I think that although I understand the major reason they kept it that way was because of people's muscle memory of being able to, of knowing when to press the button, timing and everything for that. But they also modified it slightly so that instead of it being you have to press it just before it gets to lining up with the square that's shown on screen, you do it right when it does. So it's better on the timing. So there's less input lag. But personally, I think that if you bump it up to 60 frames per second, yeah, it's going to make the timing different, but it's also going to make it better because it'll be much more instantaneous from the time that you press the button to the time that it does the action. So anyway. But yeah, I haven't played super far into it. I'm like 2.5 hours into it. And I'm not like, it's another one of those where I'm not like playing it. It's more just the fact that I found out that this decompilation existed and I just had to check it out because it's a game that I got partway into disc 2 when I was playing the PS1 Classics version. But when I had to like reformat or do a factory reset and on my Vita and everything, I lost my save files. I mean, like I thought I had it backed up, but I didn't apparently. And so I had to start over anyway. It's like, well, I can do the PCD compilation. I think there are some mods that are like work in progress that I'm going to look into, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. That, work on, make the visuals a bit better and hopefully make it so that like the, like the pre-rendered backgrounds so that they actually can fill the whole screen. Because when you're in battles, the background fills up the whole screen, but when you're not in battles, if the pre-rendered background is just like a narrow thing, then it's just 4:3. It's not, it won't fill up a 16:9 screen. So, and the footage here is actually from the Steam Deck, so it's 16:10, so it still has stuff cut off a little bit, but yeah, I have been enjoying about it is, of course, the music is great. And so it's just kind of like bringing back some memories of the last time I was playing this, which was back in 2021. And I've never finished the game. Like I said, the farthest I got was partway into disc 2. And there's 4 discs. So I'm definitely going to, as I want to play this, I will be playing it probably on the Steam Deck. But I'm not like in a rush to play through it, especially because of the fact that there will probably be improvements in the future to, get 60 in battle and potentially some other modifications that can make the game feel a little more modern. Because I don't want it to be like altogether different, because I think the game in its base form is still really solid. It's just some of the like some graphical glitches here and there that could be better. Like occasionally there will be like little spots on the 3D character models that'll be like transparent, and so you kind of see a background through them, which can be a little distracting. But I mean, it's also a PS1 game, so considering the fact that Sony seems to have forgotten this game ever existed, and I'm pretty sure it was a Japan studio game as well. So it's like it's highly unlikely they'll ever do anything with it. And of course, if they're actually pulling back from putting their first party games on PC, then it wouldn't matter anyway. We'll play the original, and nothing wrong with that. But yeah, that's everything.
Nice. Wow. I'll need to look into that into that decomp, because it's been a long time since I've played Legend of Dragoon, and I didn't get too far into the game. I mean, I know I was only probably still in disc 1, but from what I played of it, I definitely enjoyed it. And oddly enough, I had not heard of the mechanics of Super Mario RPG, so when, I'm playing the game and I see that you do have those prompts, the button prompts that allow you to deal extra damage, I thought, wow, this is really revolutionary. It would be cool if more RPGs did this, not knowing that Super Mario RPG already did that to a degree. And then, of course, decades later, I play Expedition 33 and, does something kind of similar to that. So, definitely nice to see. But yeah, that's a game that I would be interested in going back and playing, just because it's something, like I said, it's something I haven't finished before, and it was back when playing on the PS1. But yeah, definitely good stuff there, and hopefully they will get that 60 FPS in battles ready sooner rather than later, because I can definitely understand that it is very jarring to go from 60 outside to 20 in battle, and that can be very off-putting, to say the least. Going back though to going back to Pragmata, you mentioned the optional objectives, and I know you said they give you extra resources and stuff. Is there anything that's like extremely rare, or is it just something like in general you can get that you can normally find in the game?
So it's sort of rare. It's like it's a resource that you get plenty of them throughout the game, but it's not something that like you just pick up randomly all the time. It's more like there's a set number of them that you can get in the game, and some of them you can get specifically from these optional objectives in the training. And I think that there's like some in some cases some armor pieces, for example, or armor skins that you can get that are specific to completing those optional objectives.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, because I know that some I know that it can be, some games are easier than others. Some are like, yeah, you can only get this way, and other times like, I could try doing the objectives, or I could just try to just farm, or try to farm the resource other ways. But yeah, this makes sense then. I guess so far, is there anything like, are there any resources that you feel like you absolutely need to have, or is it something like, say, I don't feel like fully upgrading this item, or something like that, where I'm like, it wouldn't really matter if I don't get them?
I mean, like I would say all of the upgrade materials, with the exception of like the basic currency that you have that just is used for everything, all of those different upgrade materials you get are there. Like I said, there's a finite number of them. There's like 2 or 3 different kinds of upgrade materials you need for stuff. But technically, you really could, get through the majority of the game without ever really doing a whole lot of upgrading. It's just, then your stuff won't be as strong and all of that. But you can't really, apart from farming for the basic currency, there's not really anything you can farm for, because the rest of them are all things you specifically obtain from completing certain objectives or finding those specific collectibles in the different levels and that sort of thing, and then those are all there's just a finite number.
Okay. Oh, and then last thing I guess I'll have is just a comment for Expedition 33. So a coworker of mine, she told me that she just started playing Expedition 33, and she got through. I know she said she got through the prologue.
Okay.
And I know last time she mentioned it, she's in flying waters right now. So
Okay.
I'm interested in hearing her thoughts as she makes progress through the game.
Yeah.
Especially after getting through Act 1, I should say.
Right.
So I'll definitely check in later on, maybe tomorrow, and just say, hey, so how's the game going for you so far?
Yeah.
But yeah, glad you mentioning playing the game reminded me, like, oh yeah, I just remembered that she told me she had started the game.
Nice. Yeah, what I really want to do is try and see if I can find like a YouTube thing that just basically shows all the cutscenes, all the different dialogue pieces, like in one video, so that you just get all of the information without having to play through the entire game. So I can basically do like a movie thing with my wife so that she can experience that, because I know she would love the story. It's just, of course, her playing the game is not super realistic.
Yeah, I can understand that, because I know one guy I know, he was trying to play with his wife, and I think essentially what he eventually had to do was just saying the game to casual, and that way she could go through it and play through the game and stuff. But I guess if it's a matter of just like not playing the game, then I think that definitely would help, because I mean the story's definitely good, and I've heard that there's a film adaptation in development. Not certain when that would be ready, and also not certain how you can take a 20+ hour game and condense it into a film, but it would be interesting to see. I'd see that definitely though.
I mean, I think if they reduce it down to essentially the stuff that's just shown in cutscenes and left out a lot of like the extra dialogue as you're running around and that sort of thing, or
Right.
cut out the majority of it anyway, they probably could get it to be a short enough movie. I mean, I still think it should be like a 3.5 4 hour movie, which would be very long, but considering how good the story is,
Yes.
yeah. All right, good stuff. Well, we had some interesting announcements come up this week. Of course, as we mentioned, there was the whole thing about the Steam controller being officially revealed as far as the timing, when it's going to be available to order and how much it's going to cost. And there's various other stories, including something about PlayStation adding 30-day DRM to their stuff. But we're not going to talk about that particular story this week. I think we're going to save that one for next week and until we get probably something official from PlayStation on that regard. But to start off our list of topics, we did get the official reveal of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. And this one, I gotta say, oh boy. There's a whole lot to say about it. And of course, I'm not gonna say much of anything right now because I want to give you a chance to talk about it. But just as a kind of a brief overview, this is a ground up remake of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which originally came out in 2013 for the PS3, Xbox 360. I think, it was also PS4 and Xbox One and PC. And I think actually it came to the Wii U the same time too. I'm pretty sure it was day one on Wii U. So this came to a bunch of platforms way back in the day. It's beloved as one of the most popular Assassin's Creed games of all time, for a variety of reasons. And this remake is being remade ground up in the current version of the Anvil engine, which is what they've been using for their last several Assassin's Creed games. And essentially they are doing this as a it's intended to be a faithful adaptation of the original game. Everything they talked about seemed to indicate that that was the case. Basically, the extent of what they're doing to improve it is primarily, apart from visuals, is that they're updating the combat to be much more action-based rather than being as basic as it was in the original game, and doing things like making the tailing missions not as soon as you get caught you fail, various things like that. They're adding some additional story missions in there and a couple of additional characters, but they've emphasized over and over that this is intended to be a faithful remake of the original game. It's only going to be focused on Edward Kenway's story, and rather than doing the additional DLC character stories. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Definitely looks good, I'll say. Definitely looks very promising in the fact that it's coming out, what was it said? May or June?
July, actually.
Okay, July. So coming out soon. And like you said, it looks great. It looks very faithful to the original game, and that's great. I'm glad also that they clarified, saying, hey, this is not going to be an RPG style game like some of the later editions. This is going to go back to the original style of the original 4. But like you said, there are going to be some quality of life improvements to it. So that's definitely nice on that end as well. I'm a bit torn on the fact that there's not going to be DLC, just because I feel like if they had made it like quote unquote a definitive edition where they added in the DLC story, I would be fine with that. But if they don't have that, I'm not going to be too upset about that. I'm also not upset about the fact that there's a lack of multiplayer, because I wasn't really playing the multiplayer back when I was playing the game. Granted, I don't know if the Wii U multiplayer, well, I mean, if it was on their day one, then I'm certain that there was multiplayer. But granted, I'm certain no one would have been playing online when I was playing it on Wii U, like years later after it had already been released. So I'm not too upset about the game not having multiplayer. But the game definitely looks gorgeous, I'll say, and the spec requirements are also very reasonable. I'd say, like, I think it was a GTX 1660 / RX 5500 as like the bare minimum, and everything else was just like pretty much in line. I mean, I thought the specs were good for what for what it is. So hey, I think that's, from Ubisoft, that's fairly reasonable optimization. But of course, we'll see what happens later on when it releases. But it looks promising. Also glad that this isn't going to be a $70 game. I know that that's something we've been seeing a bit of on the rise, even with games that are being remade or possibly remastered. So the fact that this is only $60 is pleasing. I think this is pretty fair. Oh man, there's something else that I also had as a note. Oh, and I think also the fact that, they're sort of also even going to like going so far as to re-record like lines and stuff. I think that's a pretty good attention to detail as far as just like trying to do everything all over again, so that getting the original voice actors to come back. That was definitely great. So yeah, all in all, I'd say this is very, very promising. The only thing, of course, that is just stopping me from getting this is just the fact that it has the Uplay requirements. I'm just like, that's the one thing that stops me from getting any of these games. Just the Uplay requirement. Otherwise, I would say this would have been a very easy sell for me. Just because it looks great. It looks like a lot of effort has gone into this. But it's just that's something that I would be getting for that reason only. But I think Ubisoft is doing a good job here, though, with how they've handled this.
Yeah, there's really a lot of things that can be said about this. As an overall, my overall impressions of it are very positive. Like I think it looks great. The PC requirements seem very reasonable. Although, unfortunately, the way that the requirements were set up, and I'm not sure how much of this is just because of the fact that they have ray tracing as like kind of their default, which it appears you can turn it off. But like the minimum requirements, you're getting 1080p 30. And quite a few of these are basically saying, oh, this is using upscaling. It's like, I don't want to use upscaling, but it's also because all of their various everything on their spec sheet was using ray tracing, and it was varying from a minimal amount of ray tracing to like the ultimate ray tracing. I mean, I can't remember what it's actually called, but the difference from that standpoint definitely is like but I'm pretty sure that they're going to make it possible to turn off the ray tracing, which is good because I want the performance. I don't want the ray tracing. It's like ray tracing, yes, it looks great. But the reality is when I'm playing the game, I would much rather have more frames than the ray tracing. And I do think like I find it promising that this is using the Anvil engine, because at least my experience so far with the Anvil engine, well, it's not the best in terms of optimization overall. If you have a beefy enough computer, the games can run really well. Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks very similar to this in terms of its level of detail, other than the fact that it doesn't even have ray tracing. And that one, I'm getting very high frame rates playing that game. Even before I upgraded my graphics card, I was still getting really good frame rates. So from those standpoints, like I'm happy despite that. And I think that I mean, like even looking at the spec sheet, my PC easily meets really exceeds the ultimate, or like the top level that they suggested. Although it's kind of funny that they have the 7900 XTX and the 4090 on the same level, even though the 4090 is much better in terms of like its power and everything. Even though they have the same amount of VRAM in terms of the actual like overall performance, 4090 is far above 7900 XTX. But with all that being said, as far as like the game goes, just going outside of the performance stuff, it's very promising to me because of the fact that this is so much going to be, from everything they've been showing, everything they've been saying, this is a faithful remake. And Black Flag to me was like of the Assassin's Creed games I played, it's the one that's the best balanced across the board. Like it has a great variety of stuff to do. I mean, it's the only one that I felt like has actually nailed the sailing aspect, the sailing and the ship combat. Whereas everyone, even the ones that came after it, like they were fine, but none of them were anywhere near as enjoyable. Like the ship combat is just, it's fun in Black Flag. and every other Assassin's Creed game I played with ship combat since then has just been okay. And so that's something that gets me excited. And then, of course, I like the fact that they haven't turned this into an RPG. They haven't made this, any more open than it already was. I mean, I didn't get a close look at the map they showed, whether or not they added additional locations. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as they keep it to essentially what it was before, where you have like a limited number of objectives per area, and they're not adding in a bunch of additional stuff, and they probably will add some stuff, then I think that that'll be good. And of course, as long as they maintain the core of everything else with the game, it probably wouldn't even matter too much if they did add a bunch of stuff, because the core game is so good. And looking at the combat, especially, like, the combat was the regular combat. The non-ship combat was always the weakest part of Black Flag. Like, that was the one thing that I just never have cared for. I always thought that it was just kind of like, okay, this is boring. It's like, it's Batman Arkham combat, but nowhere near as good. And that's really what it came down to. Is it's just like, oh yeah, okay, so you have the basic attack and then counter system, but it wasn't well done. Like, I mean, it wasn't broken, but it wasn't fun. Whereas this looks like, okay, this has more of the more fun combat from the looks of it, that kind of is in between what you have with the RPG Assassin's Creed games and the original game, especially because it doesn't look like the enemies don't have levels attached to them. So it's not like, oh, if this enemy's a high level, then you have to hit them 100 times or be a high level in order to kill them. You can actually assassinate them in one blow, instead of it being like, oh, you do the assassination thing and it does, a chunk of their health bar, but it doesn't matter if you stabbed them in the jugular, they're still alive and you got to keep fighting them until they're dead. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else there is. The fact that they're not including the DLC stuff, I can't remember what both of them were called. I remember Freedom Cry was one of them. I think that's the one where you play as Adewale. Or, yeah, you play as him, right? I think so. Anyway, I like him as a character, but I didn't really think it was that great. It was much better than the other one that they had, which was with, I can't even remember what the gal's name was, but playing as her, I mean, her thing was just, it wasn't any good. And the one with Adewale was good in some ways, but in other ways, it wasn't as great. I think, honestly, the biggest thing that I disliked about that was that there's like the random freeing slaves things, but it wasn't like, oh, you have a finite number of these. It's more like, this is happening all the time, frequently, over and over and over. And while I understand the point behind it, it kind of took me out, because these games have the checklist mentality so much, or at least, the rest of the game had the checklist mentality where once you completed something, it was done. And this is like, oh, this is coming up. Oh, there's another random one. There's another random one. I remember some IGN reviewer trying to virtue signal about how, like, every time he would see one of these, he'd be like, I have to go free those slaves. And it's like, come on, dude, you're lying. You did it to a certain point, and then you're like, okay, I need to move on. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can really feel strongly about all of that, and I wouldn't blame a person for, so I mean, I feel strongly about it too, but it's also, there comes a point when it's just like, as well as I do, that you didn't just keep doing it over and over, because if you did that over and over, you would never do anything else, because they infinitely respawn, essentially. So, yeah, I hate it when people virtue signal like that, especially because it was just some white guy, and it's like, come on, dude, you're lying. You are lying. Why are you lying about this? It's not getting you any points. Nobody cares, and nobody believes you. Anyway, that side tangent aside, I don't know, just everything about this remake looks extremely promising. Really, the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is really whether or not the performance will actually be as good as it looks like it's going to be. And the fact that they include upscaling and all of the different tiers of spec requirements on PC definitely makes me a little concerned about it. But I'm also very much in the spot where I'm thinking, you know, if this is actually, if I can get this through Green Man Gaming, you know, get a good price on it, I'll probably end up getting it day one because I really do love this game. I think it even is supposed to have like a handheld tier of performance, but I'm skeptical that that'll run well apart from maybe Switch 2, assuming it comes there. And even then, I've imagined it's probably still going to be 30 because they'll be going more for visuals than anything else. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that standpoint. But one positive that did come out of this is that they are not delisting the original. So you still have the option to buy the original and play the original. And that's great because the original is still great. Even with its flaws, it's still a really solid game. It still looks really good. But definitely some of the quality of life things that they added for the new version make me really excited to play it. So, yeah. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but that's probably everything.
Yeah, I overlooked the fact that they mentioned that that the spec requirements did mention upscaling and ray tracing. That's something that I completely overlooked, and then now I see that I'm thinking, all right, so maybe it won't, you know, maybe the performance isn't going to be as great as I had anticipated. I mean, again, still though, the fact that you know, at least on paper, the hardware that they're saying for the minimum is able to run the game. Maybe it'll be fine. But we'll see. I mean, my specs are right in line with the high settings, or with the high settings, so it's like, all right, I should in theory be able to run this. I mean, if you can adjust the ray tracing performance in that case, then it's like, all right, I can just turn this down, and you know, I should be able to get more than
you'll suddenly be able to get ultra settings minus the ray tracing.
Because like they're saying, like, all right, with these settings, and you know, you get 1440p 60 fps. So I'm like, all right, cool. So if I disable ray tracing, then you know, what's the performance gonna look for me then? If I do that. Granted, like you said, that's still taking consideration upscaling. So it's like, all right, so if I disable ray tracing, does that mean I just get native 1440p 60
Yeah.
in that case? So I was like, okay, then I guess that's a fair enough trade-off. But yeah, that'll be just interesting to see with that. But still, I'm definitely optimistic about this. And I mean, I feel like, I mean, granted, no, that wasn't even them. That was EA. So I was gonna say I haven't been optimistic about an Ubisoft game in a while, but this one definitely seems very promising. So you know, I'll look forward to seeing what happens with this.
The one thing I didn't remember to look into, and I don't know if they covered this at all, because I know they didn't cover it in the video presentation when they did all the reveal stuff, but I haven't looked into it otherwise, is there was one thing that they had on the original game that I really disliked, and that was the fact that in order to get 100%, you had to do these like ship battle things where you had to send out ships and you had to like use an online stuff, and it was like actual like real world time based. And so there was some of them, it'd be like, you have to set this out and then it takes 18 hours for this thing to be completed before it can be done. And so I was trying to get 100% completion, and there was one last thing that because of the fact that I hadn't been doing those as I went along because I forgot about it, then it took me a while to actually get that last little bit to get the very last treasure chest that you needed it for 100% completion. So I'm hoping that they either got rid of that or they reworked it in some way, because I'd really rather not have to do any of the stuff online. Like, do it offline, not have to worry about, you know, real world time and all that stuff. or just, have it be like, okay, 1 minute is equal to 1 hour, so it's 18 minutes that it takes to do an 18-hour thing or something like that.
Yeah, let me quickly. Oh, never mind. I was going to quickly see if they had the achievement list, but I forgot that Steam doesn't post achievements until after the game is live, so I can't check.
Yeah. Well, either way. And, if this thing ends up being a complete dumpster fire and they've been lying to us, which I honestly don't think that they are lying about this. I mean, I'm sure that there may be something they're hiding, but I think that they've had enough ill will come from gamers to where they've kind of realized that we have to get this right. Yeah. Like, I know Assassin's Creed Shadows didn't do very well, and of course it's because they also injected a lot of stuff in there that people didn't want. And, people love this game so much that they have to nail this, and I really think that they're going to. I think they're going to nail it. The only thing that may or may not be nailed is the performance. But as long as they allow us to turn off ray tracing, I think we'll be good. So,
Agreed.
All right, good stuff. Well, do you want to talk about the Steam controller?
All right. So, a few things happened this past week. At first, there was a leak of the Steam controller video that had been posted, as well as a leak of the price of the Steam controller. But then the next day, the video actually first, the reviews were coming out, and then Valve officially revealed the Steam controller, gave an overview of the controller, how it works, and additionally, they revealed the release date for the controller, which is May the 4th, which is Monday, this coming Monday, and they also revealed the price, which is $99. So essentially $100 for the Steam controller, which is obviously much higher than we had been speculating it to be over the past few weeks or so. And of course, nothing has been mentioned with the Steam frame or Steam machine. Although the Gamers Nexus video did mention the fact that, of course, that the Steam machine will come bundled with a Steam controller, but they didn't mention anything about a Steam frame, Steam machine controller bundle. So maybe something could change later on, but as of right now, the only bundle is just for the controller and Steam machine. But yeah, so it's available for purchase on Monday. No sort of pre-orders or anything like that right now. It just seems to be it'll be available live, and then anyone could just jump in and grab one. And then as of right now, like looking at the store though, it just it just has it ready for just says it's coming soon. So before I get into my thoughts on everything, what are your thoughts on the details we now have for the Steam controller?
Well, I will definitely say initially there was definitely some sticker shock. The $99 for this controller, that is high. But then someone pointed out something that I thought was a really important thing to note, and that's that with the number of features in this controller, it's really not intended to compete with like the standard controllers, like the standard DualSense or the Xbox Series controller or the Switch Pro controller even, because this has a lot more features than most of those. Like the only thing it doesn't have is the dual stage triggers, which are present in the PS5 in both the regular DualSense and the DualSense Edge controllers, which can be a neat feature for some games. In general, I find it to be kind of a bit of a gimmick, but I also think that it's like, it's a feature that would be nice to have, but I also kind of understand why they didn't include that feature. Um, Particularly just because they were basically trying to replicate the Steam Deck in terms of the layout, all the buttons, all of that, plus adding the additional touch-based gyro that's based on the handles rather than just being on the joysticks when you touch the joysticks. But of course, there's a lot of customization you can do with this. This is a whole lot more customizable than any other controller, and of course, the fact that you can have per game profiles is definitely a big deal as well. But if it's not competing with those, then it's intended to compete more with the high-end controllers. So things like the DualSense Edge and the Xbox Elite controller, which are, I think, one of them is like $200 and the other one's $250. So if you look at it from that standpoint, it's like, okay, $99 really isn't that bad. It's still more than I want to spend. I would much rather it be, like $80 max. But I will say $99, at least for now, I'm only getting one. I'm not getting more than one. It's going to be for me and me only because it is a higher end controller. Of course, it has all the features that I want it to have. And I mean, it's the controller I've been asking for a long time. The nice thing about this being more of a high end controller is that when I get to the point of actually completing the review for the QRD controller, I can point out that this is not going to be as high end as the Steam controller. However, it is also a great choice for if you're not looking for something as fancy. So it doesn't have as many features, but it's still a great controller. And then of course the Steam controller is obviously going to be a whole different story, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on one. The one downside is the fact that because it's coming out on May the 4th and shipping times kind of are inconsistent with these things, I'm not going to be able to ship it directly to me because I don't know for sure if it'll get here before I head out to Wyoming. So instead, I'm going to be shipping it to my in-laws' house. So, but of course, I'm sure that probably once I set it to ship to my in-laws' house, it will get there before I arrive. I mean, like 2 days before. And it'll be like, I could have gotten it here if I had just... But I'm just like, I don't want to take any chances on that, because if by chance it showed up and the person who's going to be house sitting for us was not here at the time, then, it could get stolen and everything. And it's like, yeah, I don't want that to happen. If it goes to my in-laws' house, I know that I'll have access to it. I'll be able to use it over the 2 weeks that we're out there, and it's going to be really great. As I've said, I do think that the $99 is steep, and I do wish it was cheaper, but ultimately for me, this just makes it so that I have already made the decision. I'm not buying more than one, at least not for now. Now, down the line, when the price goes down, like if they have a good sale on it, drop it down to $70, I'll grab a second one, just so that I have an extra. But otherwise, it'll basically be, I may get it. The only way I'll get another one is assuming I get a Steam machine, because it'll be included. So, but yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I mean, other than all the gushing we've already done about this controller when they initially revealed it. I'm really excited about this one, and I can't wait to get my hands on it and finally be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah. I like you said before, the price reveal definitely was the biggest shock. I was really hoping that the leaked price was just, hey, maybe this is just really speculation of what it could be. But then, we saw it was like, oh yeah, that's official. That's $100. But like you said, it does do more than the standard controllers. I mean, even if you say, well, the DualSense has, haptic feedback. It has the touchpad. It really only just has the one touchpad, and
that
it doesn't
touchpad's
have,
very
like,
limited on its functions compared to the Steam.
Yes,
controller.
and you have the dual ones as well.
Mhm.
And like you said, you can use them as a mouse, and then I hadn't even considered all the ways you can customize it as
Right.
well, as far as especially in the game. So I was like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting. I never thought about using the touchpads in that sense as well, and I kind of like the way they have the sensors in the grips rather
Mhm.
than on the thumbstick, because it is something that I know with trying to do gyro with the Steam Deck, sometimes I wouldn't necessarily want to reorient myself just by lifting my thumb from the thumbstick just to do stuff. I was like, sometimes it's nice having to do that. Sometimes it doesn't feel nice. So it'll be interesting trying to do it with the grips instead of the thumbstick for the gyro. So that'll be interesting. And then also,
Well, you
again,
can do it either way.
oh, you can do it either way. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you can set up the gyro to turn on any number of different ways. Even on the Steam Deck right now, I mean, you can use the touch on the joysticks. You can do a button press. You can do like a combo of pressing the Steam button and something else. It can be when you're pulling a trigger, things like that. All sorts of different ways.
All right. Well, I'll definitely have to experiment with that then, because that's gonna be interesting. But yeah, even with just like the grips, like the sensor in there, like you can still customize that too. And they were showing different things for that. And I thought, all right, how many different things can you do with this controller at this point? Because there's, like you said, there's a whole lot of customization that you can do with this, and definitely looks good. And even though I watched the sort of breakdown with like the differences between joysticks, I mean, of course, the traditional analog sticks versus Hall effects, I'm like, all right, I get the idea with that. But when it came to like the TMR versus Hall effect, I'm like, all right, you know what? You lost me here. This is getting
Yeah.
too technical for me. I'll just stick with it's better than Hall effect, essentially.
Yeah, it's
But
like I think it's
def-
like a 1% difference in the failure rate, because it's like there's a short video I watched that had I think it said it was like 5% failure rate on the Hall effect, and then like 4% on the TMR.
Okay. That's definitely nice then, even if it is just a single percentage of a difference. But yeah, I mean, overall it definitely looks good. And I'll definitely make use of this as my main controller. Like you said though, as of right now, it's just gonna be my main one, and it's also just gonna be for me. If my niece and nephew are over, something that they're playing or something like that, it'll be like, no, I know I normally let you choose which controller you want, but this is going to be mine. Until I get another one, you two choose between the other ones and whatnot. But like you said, if there's a sale, I'll get another one, and if I get the Steam machine, that'll have one with it, so I'll at least have a backup one. But yeah, all in all, this is definitely gonna be good. I've been sort of having issues again with Bluetooth, kind of with my Xbox controller. So having something that I know will be sort of natively supported within Linux, that is sort of like in that same design-ish, you could say, as the Xbox controller, will be nice. So I'm definitely looking forward to this overall. But again, just like being able to have those Steam Deck controls, actually without using a Steam Deck at my PC is going to be very, very cool, and looks promising. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I like the fact that if you're using the puck rather than using Bluetooth, then you don't have to worry about Bluetooth interference or anything. It and it's supposed to have like a really good range on it as well. So that's very nice. But yeah, I mean, this controller just has me super excited. Like, I mean, I have loved the QRD controller that I've been using for a while. Like, it's been a great controller, and I'm, you know, when I get my review, it's going to be more glowing than it was before, because it really has been a great controller, and it's been my daily driver. You know, it's the main controller I use. I almost never use other controllers when I'm playing on PC. It's really, I mean, like, I haven't really used it on Switch and stuff because it just, the muscle memory just messes with me too much, and so then I end up having more issues from that standpoint. But on PC, it's been like an excellent controller. But the Steam controller obviously is going to be much more exciting, and of course it's also more expensive, which, you know, it's like, well, you know, if you're not wanting to spend $100 on a controller, the QRD controller is great. It's cheaper than the other controllers, has a lot of features, and just works really great. But if you want a more premium controller, you go with the Steam controller, because it has a whole lot of features. I mean, granted, it's probably not going to work outside of PC, but, you know, it does work on PC, and it's, I'm honestly, the thing I'm looking forward to the most about this is just the simple fact that you can have a per game profile for the controller. Because the one thing that is a real downside with the QRD controller is that, like, when you program stuff to the back buttons, it's on the controller, it's not per game. And so if I want to change what those buttons do, I have to do it every time I switch to a different game. I have to reprogram it, and that's kind of a hassle. But yeah, anyway,
quick question that I had made a note that I want to ask you. So with the controller being a bit more expensive than we originally anticipated, do you think this could be a sign of, you know, maybe the Steam machine being more expensive than we thought, or do you think this is just something that's limited to the controller as far as, you know?
You know, honestly, it's really hard for me to say. I don't think it's a sign of anything, mostly because when we realize that it is a more premium controller, it makes sense for it to be $99. And the fact that it's $99 for such a premium controller versus the $200, you know, plus that it is for the premium PlayStation and Xbox controllers that don't even have better sticks, mind you. That to me is more encouraging. Now, I'm still just going into the Steam machine and Steam frame expecting them to be more expensive than we want them to be. But I can't remember if it was on the what you call it, the Gamers Nexus video. I can't remember if it was them saying it or if it was someone else saying that they were theorizing that Valve may just decide to take a loss on the Steam machine and Steam frame and release them for cheaper. And I mean, like, I look at it and I say, with as pro-consumer as Valve has been, I could see them doing that. And also considering the fact that if they sell it for cheaper, yes, they'll lose money on that hardware, but people are going to buy a bunch more games and people are going to be super happy with that. It's like, yeah, they'll lose money on the hardware, but then they'll get a bunch of money from people buying a bunch of extra games. Because, I mean, while I probably won't buy a bunch of extra games because of the fact that I already have a ton, I could definitely see some other people, especially like if it's someone new coming into the Steam machine who isn't a PC gamer or who, you know, wants to get into PC gaming, they may be like, wow, because that price was so good, now I have extra money that instead of having to spend it on the machine itself, I can just buy a bunch of games. And then, of course, once they discover all the places that they can get discounted games and cheap games and free games, they'll be like, what have I been doing my whole life? Why have I not gotten into this sooner? Theoretically, anyway. There'll be some people that will go that direction, but yeah.
Hopefully that's the case.
I hope so. I'm not expecting anything. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just expecting it to be expensive and for it to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to get it because it's too expensive. But, you know, Valve has surprised me more times than not, and they've been pro-consumer more often than not, which is why people are so loyal to them. It's because they do good things for their customers, which gets them more money in the end. I mean, what a concept, But yeah. That's all my thoughts.
Nothing additional from me either.
All right. Let's see what we got right now. We're about an hour and a half in, so we still got some time. So I guess we'll go ahead and get on into our next topic. So in recent interviews with the new Xbox president, Asha Sharma, she has basically said that when asked the question about whether or not exclusives would be coming back, she basically said that we are re-evaluating that possibility. And let me find the specific quote because I don't want to misquote her on that. So, one thing I do want to note along with this is that what had been changed from Xbox to Microsoft Gaming, kind of covering the whole thing, they just decided to go back to just Xbox. They want to focus on Xbox as their brand for the gaming side of things. And of course, now Xbox is also covering, with the new Xbox being more of a PC that's not in disguise as just something else, because they've been PCs for a while. But anyway, and this is coming from Video Games Chronicle. A message sent to Xbox employees worldwide and published on the company's website. Sharma and the Chief Content Officer, Matt Booty, outlined the future objectives for the Xbox brand and confirmed that as part of its changes, the Microsoft Gaming division will be rebranded back to just Xbox. The pair said that the new North Star for Xbox will be daily active players and indicated it will execute its new plan through 4 priorities: hardware, content, experience, and services. And this is where we get to the main point here. Notably, the leadership team claimed that along the way, we will reevaluate our approach to exclusivity, windowing, and AI, and share more as we learn and decide. While the letter makes no firm commitments, it indicates that Sharma is listening to the Xbox players who feel that the platform has lost value due to Microsoft's decision to bring its first-party games to PS5 and Switch 2. There's some other information on here, but it's nothing further about what they've said. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that this means that they're actually going to go back to doing exclusives on their platform?
I'm not entirely certain what to make of this, just because I initially thought that Sharma was pretty much just all talk initially when she joined, but there are changes that have been made, such as Game Pass being cheaper now. They're removing Call of Duty from Game Pass for a full year, so we are seeing some changes happening. So I don't know if something will happen or not. Personally, I don't think that the games leaving Xbox and not being exclusive has devalued the platform. I think if anything, it's just that the quality of the games just weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
And being exclusive isn't going to make that better. I mean, Crackdown was exclusive to Xbox, but I don't think anyone was really saying too much about it being good, even though it was exclusive. Concord also was exclusive to PlayStation, but I don't see people saying, oh, the quality was there because it's exclusive. No. So I just think I don't think that's a problem with that. I mean, look at Indiana Jones. I mean, granted that was exclusive originally, but that's technically a multi-platform game. But people still enjoyed it and said it's a very solid game. Quality isn't related to whether something is exclusive or not. I mean, you can have good exclusives and you can have bad exclusives, just like you could have great great multi-plat games and horrible multi-plat games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, exclusivity does nothing to say it. I mean, sure, depending on if it's something that, has features or gimmicks tied to a particular console, then you might say, okay, it takes advantage of these specific things, but as a whole, exclusivity does nothing to say if a game's going to be, great or not, because we've seen great multiplats, we've seen great exclusives, and it doesn't matter. So I think Xbox fanboys who say that the quality goes down for that reason is absurd. I mean, what like Halo 5 was exclusive, but I don't think anyone's really gonna say that was a great game though. So I don't know what's gonna happen. We could maybe see some games. Maybe it could be something where there's more of a delay between releases. Like, they could still probably come to the PS5, they could still come to the Nintendo Switch 2, but instead of, maybe a year, they might decide, hey, let's make it 2 years and then we'll port it over to these systems. Because, I mean, I don't think there's a reason not to, because, similar to putting a game on PC, it's just another revenue source. So why would you, cut off your stream just to appease a few fanboys who say, oh, we want exclusives? So it doesn't make sense to me to do that. I mean, on the other hand, though, PC is still safe because Microsoft knows you can't give up on PC. And I mean, I think even in the video games article, I think Sharma even said she wants to improve. Oh yeah. She says our presence on PC isn't strong enough. Yeah, that just says we're doubling down on PC because it's good. I mean, granted, this could be something that's more so on the side of the Microsoft store, Xbox store, but the letter also said pricing is getting harder for people to keep up with. So I don't know what that's all about exactly, because I mean, at least on Steam, it's pricing's been pretty good for me. But so I don't know if that's just like with the Xbox game store and stuff, or just maybe Game Pass, which is probably why they drop prices for that. But they're still going strong with PC. They're still committed to that bit at least. But I do hope though that they aren't going to make things exclusive, because I like the idea of non-Xbox people being able to play Xbox games. Like, you shouldn't have to go and spend money on a platform, especially considering the fact that prices are going up.
Yeah.
Imagine spending $400+ for one game. That just doesn't make sense, when it's like, all right, or I could just have the console I have and just buy the game here. Like, that's so much better to do. So I hope they don't go back to exclusives, because I think we've been making such great headways with just breaking down the walls of exclusivity, where it's like, all right, cool, you're giving up exclusives, you're giving up exclusives, you're giving up exclusives. Nintendo's still stubborn, but maybe one day, they'll catch up like they normally do with changes in the game industry. So I really like the progress that we're making there. So if things are starting to revert, that's gonna be a problem to me. But I know it won't necessarily impact me though, because Microsoft's still going to be putting games on PC. I just have to see if they're gonna be games worth buying. That's really just gonna be it for me. But it'll be interesting. I hope it's not true, but considering the fact that there have been changes being made, I won't be too surprised if we do start seeing some more exclusives.
Well, I'm going to take a different opinion on this. I don't think exclusives are coming back. And I mean, not just because of the fact that technically they don't have exclusives anyway, because their games are coming to PC. But I don't think that they're going to do that. I mean, at best you could say, you know, the 6 months to a year between the Xbox and PlayStation release, which they're doing with some games, but that's not really an exclusive though. It's like, it's okay, it's a temporary exclusive, but if they know it's going to come to their preferred platform, they're still going to buy it on their preferred platform. And we've seen time and time again, especially as the Xbox games have actually been, like the first party games have been coming over to PlayStation 5. Those PlayStation 5 users did not buy an Xbox to play those games, but they sure as heck bought those games on PlayStation when they came over. It's like they'll say on the one hand, oh, you know, I want them to have exclusives, but that's the only way. I mean, you know, if they don't have exclusives, I'm not going to buy their platform. But then when they come out with exclusives, it's like, well, the exclusive is not good enough to go buy their platform. And then the game comes to PlayStation. It's like, oh, this game, I want to play this game. It's like, can you just have a little bit of consistency? You know, we've been saying all this time, most people do not want to spend $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 on a plastic box that they didn't want before to play some exclusive games. That's just the reality is that most people don't want to do that. But if you bring those games over to their platform, they'll buy the game. And then you'll at least get money from that standpoint. Whereas when you put everything exclusive to a single platform, if people don't want the platform, they're just not going to buy it. And PlayStation users in particular, like a lot of them have built up digital libraries, especially during the PS3, PS4 gen, PS4 especially. You know, built up digital libraries. They've invested heavily into the PlayStation ecosystem. They don't want to go buy another plastic box just so that they can play these few games that look interesting to them, which is why they're buying them when they're coming to PlayStation. And I just wish there was people keeping the same energy and just recognizing why it is that we on PC are saying, you know, if you bring these games over to PC, we're much more likely to buy them. Now, if we're not interested in the games, then we're not going to buy them. I mean, but, you know, I've been thinking about PlayStation versus Xbox. And for anyone listening that doesn't already know where I stand on things, I've never owned an Xbox. Never once. The closest I've ever come to owning an Xbox is the Xbox mini fridge I got for Christmas because I thought it was funny and asked my wife to get me one. And I use it all the time. It's great. But I've never owned an actual Xbox. I have owned every PlayStation up until the 5, which I never got a 5, let alone a Pro. And I'm not getting one. And I'm not getting a PlayStation 6 because it just doesn't interest me anymore. And a lot of it also a lot of it has to do with the fact that the games they're putting out, there's just not much variety anymore. Like, they're all cinematic, third-person, over-the-shoulder, action-adventure games with stealth elements. That is what they put out nowadays. And yeah, you have some slight variations in that you have a couple of superhero games, then you have, you know, the wild chick fighting robots, and you have an old man and a girl, you know, fighting against bigots apparently, and then you have you know, an edgy white biker dude fighting against zombies. Oh, excuse me, freakers. You have it's so, they're very similar. And I'm not saying that they're bad games. Like, I've bought a lot of these games. I'm like, even, you know, like God of War, for example, it's still cinematic third person over the shoulder action adventure game with stealth elements. Less of the stealth, but still just a lot of that stuff. And like, I really enjoyed God of War 2018. I enjoyed Ragnarok. Those are the first God of War games I really played, and I really enjoyed both of them. Despite some of the things that I didn't like, I still enjoyed them. I enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn overall, even though I never cared for Aloy. The bit I played at Forbidden West, I liked. Once again, not really caring for Aloy, but I like the gameplay. So, all that being said, even though there's like different settings, but the games are all very similar in terms of the types of games they are, even with different settings and that sort of thing. Whereas Xbox, I've noticed they have so much more variety in the types of games they put out, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. And that's even if you discount like acquired studios, like especially Bethesda, putting out Starfield and Doom, both Doom. Well, actually, Doom Eternal was. I think Doom Eternal came out just after Bethesda was acquired, but it was, of course, developed mostly before they were acquired. So, I mean, Doom the Dark Ages, though, and then you have Forza, and you have South of Midnight, and you have Kiln that just came out, and you have what's the other one? My brain's forgetting, but I mean, it's like you've had a variety, and not all of them have necessarily been like high tier or whatever, 90 rated Metacritic, and even if you ignore the very obvious Xbox tax that exists, the fact is there's still just a lot more variety, and PlayStation used to do that. They did that for a long time, and it really, even up through the PS4 still had a good amount of variety in general, even though they were going more and more the cinematic direction. But PS5 hasn't had that variety anymore. They're just all very similar. And that's something that I just thinking about it, like, I respect that even if not every Xbox game is great, there just is a lot of variety in the types of games they put out. And I think I've actually ended up buying, ultimately, the majority of their newer games that they put out. Now, I bought them all on discount, with the exception of Starfield, which I did buy day one. I bought even early access for that one. But it's just, I appreciate the fact that there is more variety there. And when I look at what Xbox is doing, even though they don't do exclusive games, even if you discount PC, even if you say, oh, well, they still do console exclusives, whatever. I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is not helping them. Them making their games temporary exclusive does not get people to go out and buy the hardware if they didn't already want the hardware. It's just not happening. And even before they started putting their first-party games on PlayStation, it was not happening. It's not going to change anything. People who want it will get it. People who don't want it will not get it. And there may be some people who will make the switch over to Xbox next generation because of some of the stuff that they don't like what PlayStation's doing, or the fact that PlayStation's not putting out very many games anymore and is focusing a lot more on live service and that sort of thing. But I would anticipate that the majority, especially the PlayStation diehards, are going to stay with PlayStation, and they're not going to buy an Xbox if they didn't already plan on buying an Xbox. And even if they found out that all the games are not going to be coming over to PlayStation, they're still not going to go buy an Xbox for it. They'll just keep playing their games on PlayStation. They'll get their third-party titles, their daily drivers, the kinds of things that they're playing all the time, and then they're just going to ignore the Xbox games unless they come over to their preferred platform. That's just the reality. And, I'm very much at a point where, like, I don't believe what they're saying. I think that essentially this is PR speak. Asha Sharma and Matt Booty, they're using PR speak in order to basically just kind of give people the idea that maybe this is a possibility. But then, of course, they'll look at the fact that they sold 5 million copies of Forza Horizon 5 on PS5. It outsold Ghost of Yotei, by the way. And Astrobot before that. And probably will have outsold Saros too, because unfortunately, like, as great as Saros looks, it's probably not going to sell very well unless they bring it to PC, and even then, only if they bring it close. If they bring it close to release, I think that it will sell a lot better on PC. If they delay it years out, or just don't release it on PC, then they're not going to get as many sales. But all of that is yet to be seen, especially because Sony has not officially confirmed one way or the other whether they're going to continue bringing titles to PC. And ultimately, as much as Saros interests me, I'm still not buying a PlayStation for it. I don't care that much. I have more than enough roguelites to play. As great as the game looks, like, I still have to finish Returnal. And I do want to finish Returnal because I liked what I played. It was really good what I played. But, and actually Returnal is one of the few examples of something that is, while it is technically more cinematic in a sense, it's also a very different type of game because of the fact that it's the bullet hell and the roguelike and everything like that, which you don't have on the majority of PlayStation games outside of like the Valhalla mode on God of War Ragnarok, which was excellent, by the way. Yeah. I'm probably just going to keep repeating myself, but ultimately the TLDL is I do not believe they're going to go back to exclusives, and I think that anyone who actually is convincing themselves that they're going to, and that this is somehow going to be the competition that's needed, they're deluding themselves. Plain and simple.
Yeah, definitely a great point you brought up there, and I didn't even realize how much how much Forza outsold Sony's exclusives, which, Sony fanboys will say, hey, these are great games, they sell very well, and yet you guys clearly want Xbox games more than you want Sony's games. Also, a great point you also mentioned about the variety that Xbox games have, because I was just looking through Xbox Game Studios, titles and whatnot. I'm just like, oh yeah, there's like definitely a whole lot here. And I mean, like you said, there are titles that come over from acquisitions and stuff, but just like going through, it's still just like, oh yeah, there's definitely a wide variety of genres here. It's like, okay, you want you want a 3D platformer, you've got that. You want racing, you've got that. Once more like an adventure game, got that. RPG, got that. First person shooter, strategy, and this was published by them. So Ninja Gaiden 4, so hack and slash. So it's like, all right, there's definitely a whole lot of variety under that umbrella. Whereas, like you said, Sony's really limited what they've been putting out, and so it's like you either have the third-party action adventure, or you have their live service games. And the only one that's really been worth mentioning is Helldivers 2. So it's like, really, it's like you got one or the other to really pick and choose from. So that's definitely a great point there. So it's also kind of funny that's like, Sony, clearly people want some variety in their games, so why don't you just provide it for them? And because obviously Microsoft's doing that, and they're doing what you should be doing, but Sony's gonna Sony, I guess. But yes, so I mean, I do hope that it is just PR speak, like you said, and nothing's going to come out of it. But if they do, they're really just gonna be hurting themselves. And at least on our end, though, it's not gonna be impacting us because we're in PC.
Yep. Indeed. All right. Well, I think we can probably call it here. So let's go ahead and get into our recommendations and dissuasions. Why don't you start us off?
All right. So my recommendation is going to be Vampire Crawlers. If you enjoyed Vampire Survivors, I think this is going to be different, but it's still going to be an enjoyable experience for you. And even if you have not played Vampire Survivors, I think the gameplay mechanics and game loop is just very satisfying, and it might take a bit of time to get used to the mechanics and everything, but I think once you actually get into that, once you start getting getting that pace going, then it just becomes very satisfying. You're able to easily clear out floors and just make a whole lot of progress within a good amount of time. And I mean, I've spent a good amount of time just playing this on my Steam Deck, so it's just a great time just to unwind and then just have something fun to play. So that is my recommendation.
All right. My recommendation. So first of all, I'm going to recommend that you get PC recompilations because N64, PlayStation, etc., Super Nintendo, so on and so forth. There's lots of great ones out there, more coming all the time, and the great thing is that with really all of these, you don't need strong hardware to play them. So it's really worth it. A great way to be able to play some of these classic games, especially if you've never had a chance to play some of them, and be able to play them far better than you could play them on the original hardware. But I feel like I had something else to recommend, and I don't remember what it was. So that's all I got for now. All right, dissuasions.
My dissuasion, and I had this written down, but now it's not showing up my list. I guess my dissuasion is going to be I guess my dissuasion is going to be if you're interested in the Steam controller, don't buy more than one right now. I mean, granted, we don't know if Valve is going to put a limit on how many you can purchase at once, but I would just say don't buy more than one right now. Maybe wait and see if you can get another one cheaper later on. And then, of course, just if you're going to get a Steam machine, just get one with that. I think while compared with the Elite controllers, it is a good deal. Just in general, though, it is still rather pricey. So unless you need more than one controller, just don't do it and just get one for right now. But yeah, I guess that's all I have.
All right. Agreed. All right, well, I have a couple of dissuasions related to Pragmata on the Steam Deck. So first of all, I made this mistake. So do not attempt to install the Decky loader-based FSR4 mod for Pragmata. Because while it works on a lot of games, I'm not sure if it's because of Denuvo or if it's because of something else, but if you attempt to install this one, the game will crash every single time. The best I could get was to the Capcom splash screen, and then the game would crash on me. So once I realized that was the case, I just removed it, and then everything worked just fine. But that's the first thing. Second thing is, if you want to play Pragmata on Steam Deck, unless that's your only option, do not attempt the second boss fight on Steam Deck, because that big open environment makes it makes it so basically the game runs really bad. Even if you put it on FSR3 Ultra Performance, it runs really badly. So it's just not even worth the effort. I just strongly dissuade you from trying to do that second boss fight on Pragmata on Steam Deck. And then my very last dissuasion. If you are interested in doing the Legend of Dragoon PC recompilation, and you are sensitive to low frame rates like Justin is, do not attempt it until after they update it to have 60 frames per second in combat, because if you're used to the timing, if you can get the timing down at 20, it's fine, but it still would be much, much better at 60. So, but yeah, that's everything I got. All right.
Good stuff.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new content yet. I still have to record the one video and get everything together, but I think because I might need to get a little bit of hardware, that might be delayed. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on my new series. I haven't come up with an official title yet, but the tentative title right now is just going to be the ABCs of gaming, and that is going to be sort of a not necessarily a challenge, but just going through 26 games in my Steam library, ranging from A to Z.
Okay.
And these will be brand new games, or brand new to me, that I've never played before. And so I'll just be playing through a game and stuff, and just going through that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start recording over this weekend, and we'll see what happens with that. Then I also have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. No new content on there either just yet, but there is something that I will be trying to record at some point soon, so we'll see what happens with that. But that is everything.
All right. Well, I look forward to your ABCs of gaming. That should be interesting. I've been like looking at my Steam library and thinking maybe next year something that I should do is just play games, make it so that each game I play is the next letter in the alphabet. Starts with the next letter of the alphabet, so that I actually start going through and like trying out more stuff. And so I was thinking that might be kind of interesting to try out. But yeah, we'll kind of see how things go with that. All right.
Yeah, I haven't locked it down yet, but I think the first game I'm going to try might be Alan Wake. I think that might be the first game.
It's a pretty short game, so you could definitely do that. That's a good one. I enjoyed it. I mean, at the time, it was definitely for me, like, it was tense enough to the point where, like, I would do an episode of it, and then I would just, like, step away for a bit, and then, you know, like, play the next episode a different day, and so on and so forth. I think there's, like, a total of 6 episodes, and I can't remember the exact amount of time it took me to finish the game, but it wasn't very long. It was a pretty short game. I think it was, like, a couple hours per episode was about what I had. But let me just check and see here, actually, because I have... Let's see here. Alan Wake was... Oh, no, it took me 14 hours to get through. So, yeah. It was like 2 to 3 hours per episode, but it wasn't too bad. And that wasn't 100% it, but, you know. Cool. All right, well, where you can find me, I have my YouTube gaming channel at The Frozen Gamer 87. Haven't put out anything new in a while other than having done that 24-hour stream raising money for my local children's hospital through the Extra Life charity. And that, of course, is, you know, available to watch in all 3 8-hour segments. I think like one of them is a little longer than 8 hours, and then the other 2 are about 8 hours. But it was a total of 24 hours straight that I streamed for that. So there's that if you are bored and just want something as background noise for a couple of days or whatever, you know, when you're not, when you need something. But then I am hopefully sometime soon, I don't know exactly when it's going to be recording my review for the QRD Ferrix M5 controller, which I've been using now for about 8 months, give or take, something like that. And it's just a great controller. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been really great for PC, but I'm hoping to get that review recorded and put up relatively soon. I just don't know what relatively soon actually means, because the rest of my week is going to be kind of busy, and then of course next week I have to get ready for our trip out to Wyoming, and then who knows if I'd have enough time to do anything out in Wyoming. So it's like I don't know, but that's one of the things I'm hoping to be working on, as well as my downsides of PC gaming video as well. I mean, I think that everything is probably going to have to be done when I'm at home, but I'll see if I can find some time to work on that before we head out. Probably won't happen, but we'll see. Anyway, and then there is the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcast. That's YouTube at the Orange Box Podcast, and Rumble is not a custom URL, but you can still find us there. There, the video version of the podcast goes live every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. If you are unsure what's the purpose of the video version, it's not just to see our beautiful faces. It's actually also to see clips of games we've been playing, If we're discussing various news topics that have videos tied to them, such as, for example, the Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced video that they did on Ubisoft's channel last week, or the Steam controller overview video that Valve put out earlier today or yesterday, whenever that was, then you have access. You can see those in the video. And of course, like if you listen to us talk about a game and you're like, that sounds kind of interesting, you can watch some of our gameplay and then is this a kind of game that might be appealing to me? And so you have that. But apart from that, there's of course the audio only version of the podcast that goes live every Friday at 12 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues or me forgetting to schedule the publishing of it. And that goes live on all major audio podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and others. And I think that's everything. Oh, yes. Obviously, if you want to contact us, you can send us an email to the orangeboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on the video version of the podcast. Something else you can always do, if you are a regular listener, that would definitely help us out for more people to discover us, is leave a review in your audio podcast platform, wherever that happens to be. That is a great way to help us reach more people. But even if we don't reach more people, and even if we never hear from you guys, we're going to keep recording this. We've been doing this now for about 2.5 years, and we're still going strong every single week. And it's a great way for us to both catch up from week to week, but also just to have an outlet to talk about video games and video game news. But that is everything. So, last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I Am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, you have one question to ask yourself. Are you going to be an exclusive for PlayStation or Xbox? Orange Box Podcast, out.